Hi there. In today's video, I would like to talk about doll tights. Yes, that is a pretty simple theme, but I do use doll tights in a lot of my stylings, and I often got questions about what type of tights I use and also questions about staining. And therefore, today I will talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly fashion doll tights that you can buy on, I guess, on each and every website that does have Chinese products. I have never seen them on Amazon, but maybe because not a lot of people really want to buy them. But I honestly think that tights really add a lot to the look of a doll. I like to wear tights myself because, as you can see, I do have this very pretty white, pinky, piggy skin tone, and I think it looks way better when I put some colorful tights or at least some darker colored tights on my legs. Since my skin only knows white and red, there are no other colors possible. I will start with the bottom and then go up to the top when it comes to quality, design, and everything about it. So these here are already the bad and the ugly ones. And sadly, these are also the first ones when you search for 1/6 scale doll tights on Aliexpress. You will exactly get these items and they are horrible. The ones you can see here I already have since 2020, and at that point I also was pretty new to AliExpress and I tried out a lot of different doll types, and in the end these are the ones I never bought again. The first ones here are already the ones that are simply the worst of all of them. It is in fact a real tight material, but a very bad one. It is super sensitive. It is also very stretchy, so this is way too big for each and every fashion doll that you can imagine. Maybe they fixed that and you will get nowadays some that are at least a little bit smaller in size, but the material remains the same. It damages so dang fast. And it is absolutely not suitable for made to move legs since, it is Mattel. The seam lines of made to move bodies usually are pretty sharp, and this material even does not survive the roughness of dry skin, and therefore this is garbage. You should not buy that at all. I mean, of course, you could use these tights on different doll bodies, but still, even on a curvy girl, it is still way too wide, and as I said, the material is so sensitive. It is really terrible. Next up is from ugly to simply bad. I mean, on pictures and in general, I think these fishnet stockings do look quite interesting, and they do in fact generate a quite nice look on the right leg, but the quality of these is just not good. I mean, because of the material, the sewing cannot be that good. Depending on the doll you would like to put these on, it is also not totally easy to put them on, especially when you have mobility in the ankles. But as you can see on Barbie or on Made to Move Standard, it is way too large, and yeah, it looks better on a tall girl, but in general, you have a lot of extra fabric in the front of the foot. So also this is a problem when you squeeze in your feet into shoes. So at that point, for example, the Mitzi body or even the fake Mitzi body, because it does have even less long toes, which are already on the original, are not really existent. But anyway, it is easier to put those tights on the Mitzi body, and it looks definitely better on a girl that does have longer legs, but the structure of them is not so nice. Also because of the thickness of the material. And you do have a dress over that, or even maybe some short pants, you can totally see the thick pattern of the fishnet underneath that. And so I don't know. I don't like it. I think they do not do a good job with enhancing a look. I think they are simply bad quality. And when it comes to the black version of these tights here, it is the most harmful black tight that you can buy for your doll. This is my worst stained made to move Barbie body that I do have. And since the feet, especially the feet, are made out of a softer material, they definitely soaked in the color of the tights like a sponge. It is really so deeply stained. I did not try any treatment on this body. I just left it as it is. I was back then very disappointed and packed it away, but I got it back for this video here. And I guess when it is warmer outside, I will try the acne cream treatment. I did it with a lot of lighter stained dolls before, so maybe it will work, but the feet are really so badly stained, so I don't know. The rest of the body is not so badly stained because it is still not a super hard material, but way harder than the hands or the feet, and of course the head. When you do have a soft vinyl like a head and the whole entire body of Worldbox, for example, they do stain very, very fast. But for the made to move, it is okay. But the feet themselves, they are softer, so they will stain way faster. Next up are already good ones or okay ones, which depends on what type of doll you would like to use the tights on, and also a little bit with luck, because when you buy these tights, they do not always have the same quality. But I never received a pack that was totally awful, so they are on the okay side, and they are pretty good for bigger dolls, taller dolls, also curvier dolls, and even for workbox bodies, and I'm sure for other action dolls as well. So this one here, this beige skin colored one, is my favorite, even though the color looks not so nice on seller pictures and also not here. But in my opinion, they look quite good on a lot on different doll legs. They also have a fishnet pattern, by far not as big as on the other ones that you have seen before. And I think they do give doll legs a nicer texture. Often they also hide a little bit of the joints, so overall I do like these tights on the right legs. But the thing is, you do not always get the right color or not exactly the same if you order again. So here, for example, sometimes you will receive a very bright white pair of tights, and the other time you will get something that is a little bit more cream white, for example. Some of these that I ordered around last year, for example, came with a kind of paperback pants looking aesthetic around the elastic, which is a bit hard to cover when you wear something that is not completely white, and it is simply a little bit too much fabric, but it happens only one time. And the color is also a little bit different. For example, the one from last year is more light blue and the other one is a bit darker. Also, here you do have the gray tights in different variants, but it is really hard to see on screen that the color is different. But one is a bit darker than the other one. The differences are only minor, but you will have to deal with this when you buy those tights, and the ones you will see later on do not have these differences, for example. When you put on these tights on a made to move body, you can see most of the time you do have a lot of fabric left on the tip of the toes. There's this, I don't know, ball or knot of extra fabric. And of course, that interferes with some doll shoes. And in general, I think that these tights are a little bit too large for the standard made to move. They do fit way better on a curvy body, but still, you still have this piece or knot out of fabric in the front of the foot, so you would have a problem with finding the right shoe that does fit. Sometimes you're lucky and you will receive tights that do not have such a big ball of extra fabric, but that is not guaranteed. I have at least 15 of these in that color, and most of them, I guess I have two that do have really only a very tiny ball of extra fabric, but most of them are exactly like this one here, so it is quite a bit. But still, in my opinion, they fit very nicely on all these long-legged supermodel dolls and also way larger legs or wider legs, like for example of the 8202. I do really like these tights on the Worldbox bodies. I think they do look really good, and even you can put them over legs, booty, and even underwear without any big problem. And the material does not wear out that fast, so overall, these tights are not bad. But I'm not a big fan when it comes to the standard made to move. You can get better tights for just Barbie made to move bodies and even Barbie bodies or Barbie bodies that do not have this double joint articulation. When it comes to colored tights of this sort here, I never had a big problem with staining beside the black ones. Even the red ones did not really stain my dolls, but I have to say I most of the time use these tights on these model type bodies, and these bodies do have a hard plastic leg. And when you use those tights on Barbie legs, especially the made to move feet, they are so soft and they will get stained easier. The black tights you can see on the far right, I did not treat with anything because usually when I use black tights and also black fabric in general, back in the days when I did not make YouTube, I used to wash my black clothes before I put them on dolls. I even used white vinegar because it is part of homespun remedies that when you use vinegar on colorful fabric, it might bleed out less or helps the color to sit in the fabric better. I don't know how to describe it, but you use white vinegar for that quite often, or in the past, people used it. I don't know how many people today will use it, but sometimes it can help that a fabric will stain less on your doll. But let me tell you, this really works not so good for black fabric. When you do have a doll that does have very soft legs or parts in general, they will stain. Even if you use vinegar or it will stain. It depends on the fabric itself. You can find black fabric that does not stain that fast. For example, I do have a lot of t-shirts and even skirts that I bought on Aliexpress during the last year, and they do not really stain any of my plastic dolls. Even not after months that I left the clothes on the actual doll. But for example, on Worldbox, they stain within seconds because of their very soft texture of the skin. It is not like silicone, it is more like when you have in hands a Barbie head, but still it is soft and it will get stained very fast. So I would never ever put on standard black tights on those bodies, but I know there are, in theory, especially for action figures, black fabric that does not stain, but it is really hard to get. And when it comes to dolls, especially the feet and the hands and the face of Barbie, for example, are a little bit sensitive. Not only a little bit, they are also very sensitive. When you really do like to use black fabric on fashion dolls, I highly recommend getting a hard plastic body for your doll head. For example, you can see here my Kismela body. I used exactly this black tights on this body here and I left it on for 2 months. I was simply too lazy to remove the tights after I styled the doll with it, and I knew that it could or that it would stain the leg, but I know for a fact that it is not such a problem to remove the stains of a Kismela leg. All you really need is some sort of magic sponge. Sometimes it is a bit problematic to use this kind of sponge on a vinyl surface, but honestly, on a plastic one like this one here, it is really not a problem. It would have been way easier just to remove the tights from the leg after I used it for styling, but I simply forgot it. And it is not such a big deal when your doll leg is completely made out of plastic. And that is the case, for example, for Kismela and also for the Mizi bodies, regardless if it is the original one, the high quality fake, or the low quality fake. All of them do have not the exact same kind of plastic, but it is hard plastic and you will not get a lot of stains, and even if you have some stains, you can get rid of them. The only thing that is not really hard plastic is, for example, on the lower quality fake Mizi bodies, the lower arm or the forearm. It is also a softer material, not super soft, but it is softer. So I guess it will also stain faster, at least faster than the legs and the rest of the body. When it comes to Mengf, it is a bit more complicated since the plastic of the Mengf bodies are in between. They are not super soft, but they are also not super hard. So it is easier to stain Mengf bodies in general. Maybe the torso. The torso itself is also pretty much hard plastic. And the rest is also, you can definitely compare it to Barbie plastic, but the feet, for example, when you do have the feet with movement in the ankle, they are also softer and therefore they get stains easier. But I had this yellow tights also on for quite a while. They never stained any of my dolls, and even the red one, I remember that I had it on a Mizi body for over a year and I did not get any stains. Of course, as I said, it is a hard plastic, so you don't really get so many stains on the hard plastic bodies, but I don't have a problem with it. The only real dangerous color is black. And that is also the case for the next ones you can see here. In general, I do like the style of these tights a lot. I simply don't want to use the black version. You can see it here. I do have these specific pants for maybe around 3 years, and I used white vinegar on them, and you can see the color got a bit blotchy. There are some streaks that are darker, so maybe I could redo the process and maybe get out some of the intense black color, but I decided that I just don't want to use them. Personally, to me, it is not worth staining my made to move bodies with black pants. I decided I will use most of the time neutral colors and also even other dark colors, but just not black. Black is a special color, I don't know why, but I don't have the problems with red, not even with the very dark purple color that you can see here. The girl from the thumbnail is wearing exactly these tights for way longer than 2 years non-stop, and she does have exactly one spot of staining, and that's where I placed her hand against her upper body, and therefore there was more pressure, and that's the reason why the body got stained. I don't know, because she also wore shoes all the time and she was standing on her feet, and the feet did not do any staining to the more soft material of the feet, so I don't know why, but she does have a little staining on her hip that is very minor, and of course I don't know when the staining did happen because she did wear this non-stop for 2 years, but still the staining for this dark color is minimal, and only black is a real big deal when it comes to staining out of my experience. The next one is a more natural skin color type of tights, and the only issue I have with these tights is the color itself. The body you can see here is the tennis player, which does have the lightest available color for made to move, and the tights do fit this color. They are of course a little bit more yellowy, but if you use a body that is darker, or at least way darker, then the purple top made to move, these tights do look odd. Even on a body with new neutral skin tone, it is already too light in color, and usually I like to use dolls or bodies with a darker skin tone, and I cannot have this, which is a shame since the quality of these tights is really good and they also do cover up the joints a bit, so I really like these, but they are not available in a darker skin color, so that is a big minus for me. At that point, I also remembered that I do have another doll with another color that is wearing these pants for a long while, and these pants are in blue. And you can see here that the doll did not get any staining of the tights, even though I have her displayed in a sitting position. I think on the white version of these tights you can see that the structure is even finer than the one of the pants you have seen before. Also, these tights are a little bit pricier. For the ones that you have seen before, I did not pay more than €1.50 each. That was the highest price I ever paid for one of these that you have seen before. Usually the price is between €1 to €1.50, but these here cost around €1.60, so they are a little bit more expensive. And I have seen listings for these where they cost over €3, but yeah, you can find them for way less than that, so they are not so expensive. Of course, I did include the links in the description for the items that I have bought in the past, but the links are not affiliated. You just can use them to find your own best price, since I'm very sure that I do not have the same listings that you do have, and so I just include them so you can find what you're looking for. I don't get anything of them, and I don't plan to change that, to be honest, but still, they are there just for your information. So these are also the first ones that do fit on a petite made-to-move body. Of course, the tights are a little bit on the loose side. Also, I do have used these tights before, so they are not brand new. But still, it is a good fit. And as you can see, the color for the petite body, which is the original body of Barbie Model Looks number 15. And you can see that these tights are way too light for that skin tone already, but they are also even too light for the pink top Yoga Made to Move, which is maybe only a very light tan. So overall, these tights in skin tone only works for lighter skin tones. They are stretchy enough for curvy bodies. It is a snug fit, but it does work. At that point, I realized that these tights saved my doll from staining off the skirt she was wearing in her sitting position. I think not even the fabric stained on the tights, but the stitching, the red thread of the stitching, would have stained the leg of my doll without the tights. That's nice to know. So the tights did save my doll from staining, which is also a big plus in my opinion. That's good to know. But these tights are way too short for the long-legged fashion dolls like Mengf, Mizi, Kismela. All these girls do have way longer legs, and even the Worldbox do not have longer legs that are made to move, but wider ones. They would also not fit into these type of tights. Which means for the supermodel type of body, they simply do not go up completely, so the crotch is a little bit or more than a little bit lower than it should be, so these are not 100% suitable for longer legged dolls. And this is the last batch of tights, and it is my favorite type of doll tights. The material is hard, it is totally plasticky, it does not have a nice touch to it when you have the tights itself in your hand. And yes, that is totally positive because they don't stain anything. So I never had any problem with any of these tights on any of my dolls, and they work perfectly on the standard made to move, also on smaller dolls. But the thing is, they are not really stretchy, so it gets complicated if the doll is larger or if it does have wider legs. So, for example, you cannot use them on curvy Barbie bodies, and they are short on long-legged fashion doll bodies. But I think they look awesome on standard made to move, and they do add some shine to the leg, and overall, I don't know, I really do love these tights on dolls. And they are absolutely not sensitive. You can use them on your made to move without any problem. But that's also the case with the tights you have seen before. I didn't say that, but they are also, I never had a problem. They did not rip apart. I think in all the years I'm using tights on my dolls, I had one pair that the seams came loose. Not for these ones here, for the ones that I have shown before. I should have said that before, but only one that was not perfectly sewn. And so far, these here and the ones you have seen before are top notch. I never had a damage with them. And as I said, for the ones that you've seen before, there is still a chance for staining, even though it is minimal in my opinion. But on these here, I never had a problem with staining. I also never tried out the only black one in the listing, the one with the black polka dots. I was not brave enough for this, so maybe that one would stain because of the dots, but I have never tried it. Maybe I will do that in the future. The color of the first one and the second one from this lot here are my favorite colors. The first one does have the name KD124. It is shown on a very light model and therefore it looks a bit dark, but it is in person a color that works with a lot of different skin tones. My other favorite one is the next color, so it is the KD125. It does have a slight pink undertone, but it is not so intense. When the tide is on the leg, it is more a powdery color, and I also used it here on a darker skin color, which is here the actual wheelchair Barbie skin color, which is a bit different from New Neutra, but it is the same color family, so you can use this lighter pinker tones also on slightly darker skin tones and it looks good. Here you can see how far the tights would go up on a Mizi type body and it is not a perfect fit. The elastic cannot go over her booty. The tights are not long enough for that. The tights are a little bit cheaper than the ones you have seen before. These here cost around €1.10 to €1.15. That's the highest price I paid so far, and only the one that is purple with this pattern. This one here comes from a different listing, same seller, different listing. I don't know why, but this one here does cost €1.49 at the moment. I'm not quite sure why this one is more expensive. The material feels exactly the same, maybe because of the pattern. I don't know. This is also one that is a tiny bit shorter, but really only really a hint shorter, and that might only be the case because that particular one is a bit shorter, and I have only this one here, so I don't know. The other ones are always exactly the same. I ordered these tights at different times and even different years, and they arrived always in the same quality. That's the same for the tights we have seen in the sequence before this one here, so these are definitely on a higher quality level, and the quality in my opinion was, or in out of my experience, was always the same. The only thing is, when you would like to use those tights on the long leg girl and you would like to give the impression that the tights do fit, you need a pair that is completely new, because that is what I did with my last short. I used those tights on a Mengf body, and these tights are simply too short for those long legs. But when you have a totally fresh one that was never ever on a different body, it works. It does not go higher than, but still the tights do have a tighter fit, and it does not look like it would not fit perfectly, as long as you do not lift up the skirt. Anyway, what do you think? Do you use tights on your dolls? Are you interested in tights, or is it absolutely useless in your opinion? I mean, I tend to use them maybe a bit too often. Not quite sure, but I simply like them. So, in case you're interested in tights for your dolls, I hope this video was a little bit helpful and that you will not make the same mistakes that I did in the past. And I really hate the ties from the beginning of this video. I don't like them at all. And I hope with this video, in case you have never bought them, or ties in general for dolls, and you would like to get them, you will avoid these bad quality ones. So this is again the end of the video. It was not the video that I had planned for this weekend, to be honest, but Yeah, sometimes you need a plan B, and I have to say thank you to one of my followers because he gave me this idea to make a video about it, even though he did not ask for a video. He just told me that he recently got some bad staining because of some doll tights on one of his new dolls. And of course, it is such a bummer when you have a completely new doll and you get those stains that are hard to remove. But even vinegar is not the 100% guarantee that a fabric does not stain your doll. It is sometimes just a combination of materials of the doll, the fabric, and of course, in general, the color. But overall, black is most likely a bit more on the risky side when it comes to skin tight clothing or tights. For next week, I hope that my missing part will arrive, and even if not, I hope to see you again in a next video. And until then, I wish you a great time. Bye!